All right there, VC. Steve Whitty here. It's Sunday morning. Time to do another video. Hope everyone's keeping well. Sun's shining. Now it all seems a bit surreal. It almost feels like it's getting to a stage where I'm not quite sure what day of the week it is. I just hope I remember to make up in time to go to set myself up for work tomorrow. Yes, as I said, it's been difficult times. We're working from home, and you probably notice I've did get myself a new chair. The chair I was sitting on, it was totally not suitable for working from home. I've never done it before, so I splurged on a new chair. So my sort of angle's sort of a little bit different. I've had to put a book on the stand where I rest my iPad to record the videos. So there. Get me cup of tea. And I suppose the biggest thing is this period of not having to only going out when you need to go out. Now, I did develop a cough on Monday, and so I've been self-isolating. That will finish Monday, all being well. The cough has gone away. But you can't be too sure. Fortunately, my brother did a little bit of shopping for me, and I had enough food, so I wasn't too worried. That's just a mere fact that you see the news and what's happening. It's just very stark at the moment. What's happening? We're all getting used to it. Maybe we'll get too used to not going out. That is a worry. So on Tuesday, I think one of the things I will do is just go out for a walk, just to have my exercise, make sure I get that in. And obviously isolation means events get cancelled, and it sort of reminded me, I hadn't done a video of when I went to the Moseley Record Fair, which was 4 weeks ago, 1st of March. It's hard to believe 4 weeks ago. Crikey, it feels like totally different times. Give you background. Moseley Record Fair happens every month on the first Sunday of the month, and it's a little fair. It's held in a church hall. Moseley's quite. How can I describe it? It's one of those sort of upper areas of Birmingham, just outside the city centre. Got more like coffee shops and that sort of thing. It's sort of caters to that crowd, but they do have the record fair at the church hall. And the beauty of that record fair is that if you're a trader, say for 1 month, you're not allowed to trade the next month. So they swap the traders around, so make sure it's not somebody selling the same stuff all the time. And so when I went, I decided to go. I'd been told it's good. It was the first time I'd ever been, so I took a wad of cash with me. And I went in, and I come away quite happy. Now, the first record, I've already shown you in my split twofer video. Procol Harum Shine On Brightly, which was one after twofer. But I didn't say much about the actual record itself. It's the band's second album that was released in 1968. This is the British cover. US and Europe had a different cover for the album. And apparently the opening two tracks, even on the British and UK and the American version, even though they're the same tracks, they're apparently different versions. It's a bit strange, all that. The album itself's not bad at all. I really enjoyed that. Next album I found a lot in the 3 for 20 quid, 3 for 10s. That's how is Aztec Camera's second album, Knife. This was released in 1984, produced by Martin Offler. The album itself didn't go down as well as the debut. The problem was, and I think Roddy Frame alluded to it afterwards, when he found out Martin Offler was producing the album, he tended to write the songs what he thought Martin Offler might like, rather than writing songs for himself, saying these are the songs for the album, what do you think? he was consciously trying to make them Martin Knopfler type songs. Good album, don't get me wrong. I think the title track's really stands up. I think it's the highlight of the whole album. It's a good album. It's not an album I'd seen, and then lo and behold, after I bought it, I saw another copy. Album I keep seeing and I never really pick up. And this is Heaven 17's Penthouse and Pavement album. This was released in 1981. It was the band's debut. The two key members, Ian Craig Marsh and Martin Ware, had left Human League, and they were seen as the sort of like the musical brains behind the band at the time, and they sort of founded the British Electric Foundation. They brought in Glenn Gregory on vocals. There you see the band, very much sort of preempting sort of like the yuppie image, but this is very much left wing sounding. How can I say? The lyrics are very politically or to the left, but it's a very subtle way to do it. It's not preaching, which made it good. No, band from Sheffield, 1981. Big recession was hitting in. A lot of industries up and down that area were dying, so things were changing. There are two distinct sides to this album: the Pavement side and the Penthouse side. The Pavement side is definitely the funkier album. It does feature bass guitar and guitar synthesizers, and it shows up with probably the best two tracks on the album, which were the singles We Don't Need This Fascist Groove Fang and Play to Win. The first one, We Don't Need This Fascist Groove Fang, was banned by the BBC for being too political, I believe. And the both singles didn't do very well. The album peaked at number 14. So the Penthouse side is more sort of like your keyboard synth based, and the single off that was The Height of the Fighting. And probably what was more galling for them was that the Human League, the other half of the Human League carried on, and at this point we're having hit singles, number one top 10 singles, number one albums, and I sort of think reflects when they did the Luxury Gap. They tried to replicate that themselves. It's a really good album, worth checking out. It's always floating around in the cheap bins. Need more tea. Where I live, it's a very small flat. I've got a storage heater, comes on the night, and it tends to dry the air a little bit, so it makes my throat sometimes feel, and sometimes that's where I get my cough. That's probably, but can't be too careful. Found a copy of this, Midnight Oils, Diesel and Dust. Voted the number one album, best Australian album of all time in 2010. This was released in 1987, and it's a concept album about the struggles of Indigenous Australians. The band had been touring sort of like the Aboriginal communities with two Indigenous bands, were Rumpy Band and Gowannabatland, and they were seeing the struggles of what was happening. And the whole point of this album that the band wanted to do in releasing this album was for white Australians to recognise the injustice that they did served on the Indigenous Aboriginal nation. Some corking tracks. Obviously, Beds Are Burning was the hit single off here, but the opening track on side 2, The Dead Heart, is actually telling the story of colonisation through the eyes of the indigenous people, and really is moving out. And this is the band at the peak, and I can see why it's in Australia it's rated so high. Absolute corking album, and obviously Peter Garrett Very political band. Peter Garrett actually taught the walk, so to speak, and he became a politician himself. He was, in fact, a cabinet minister in Australia. He quit that, and the band are back together and touring again. And more power to Elbow for doing it. Again, another cheap find. Robert Plant's Pictures at 11, his debut solo album in 1982. I suppose, and this was the only album he ever released on Swan Song. By the time he produced his the next album, the next albums, he did set his own label up. I suppose it must have been very difficult for him to know what to do next. Post Zeppelin, he's obviously lost in losing John Bonham. He lost his mate more than anything, and as an album, it's a meat and potatoes rock album. Not in the vein of Zeppelin. It was Robert Plant trying to find his own voice. Literally, just get his foot in the door. Let's get an album out. Burning Down One Side was the single, which I think charted in America, didn't in the UK. Some nice tracks on there, like I've Never Been Gone, Slow Dancer. It got a raft of musicians in on this. Phil Collins, Cozy Powell on drums, and just it's actually not a bad album. It's not a great album. It's not a bad album, and it's. We all know Robert Plant goes on his own muse at times, and it's really well worth checking out. I want to check out more of his solo stuff, to be honest. Found this again, Robbie Robertson's self-titled album from 1987, co-produced with Daniel Lanois. And you can see on the album, on the sticker, the hype sticker there, it's got... includes Showdown at Big Sky and Fallen Angel, and it's partly because it featured Peter Gabriel on vocals, backing vocals as well, and I suspect these were aimed at to being the singles for the album. However, 1988 in the UK, he had a surprise hit with Somewhere Down the Crazy River. Absolutely gorgeous track, so different to anything else that was going on at the time. It stood out like a sore thumb, actually. We're in the peak of Stockache and Waterman's domination of the charts. So a lot of cheesy pop and whatever, and this Simple Minds, U2, U2, Simple Minds and U2 sort of type band. This was so different. Really good album, actually. I've got it on cassette, and it's one that. And talking to cassettes, one of the things I've got to do is get a decent head cleaner. My tape's sounding a bit muffled at the moment, but. Yeah, absolutely wonderful that is. Found this Sandy Shore supplement. Originally issued in 1968. This is on Pie. This is a Marble Arch reissue. Now, the Sandy Shore supplement was the name of a television show which ran on the BBC at that time, around that time, 68. And the songs on here are mainly songs that featured on the show itself. So Route 66, Homeward Bound, Scarborough Fair, all covers. What Now, My Love. It's sort of like typical, quite a lot of the singers at the time. Cilla Black had a show. Lulu had a show. Dusty Springfield had a show as well on the BBC. Where they'd sing some songs, have some their mates on, guests. Unfortunately, the BBC had a terrible... Scott Walker's another one that had a show on the BBC as well. Unfortunately, the BBC had a terrible habit at that time of wiping the tapes. So there's only 2 episodes of this show still on, still available, unless people have recorded it, which does happen. Some people have taped these crude ways of taping these things at the time. It used to go out on a Saturday night at sort of like 10 o'clock in the evening, from what I was reading about it. Sandy Shaw, you can tell us quite attractive looking lady, but good singer as well. I think it's just a material that stopped her. There's one album of hers, and I can't remember the name, where she recorded. She was the first person to cover Led Zeppelin. It's a highly sought after album. Let's see if I can find a copy at a decent price. There, I found a copy of this. Patti Smith Group, Radio Ethiopia, band's second album from 1976. This was the follow-up to Horses, and it's fair to say that it didn't go down that well. Smith wanted to have an album that was successful, so she brought in Jack Douglas to produce, and most of the songs were written with Ivan Kral, who sadly passed away not so long back. He was quite happy to go in that more commercial direction, where I think the rest of the band weren't. It was a bit mixed, and I think she was panned by the critics. They basically said the album was lazy, but also basically accused her of selling out. I mean, she did dedicate to Radio Ethiopia and Abyssinia to Arthur Rimbaud and Konstantin Bershushi, whatever it is. And it was also, there's a message about freeing Wayne Kramer on the back there. He was in his jail for problems. Obviously, I think she was starting seeing Fred Smith. Obviously, the Ethiopian theme goes there, and you see in the booklet there, it's sort of like Ethiopian script. And it shows on the back of the album as well. It's not a bad album, actually. It's not up there with like Horses and Easter, but it's a good album. I didn't realise until I actually was cataloguing this. This is the only Patti Smith Group album I got on vinyl. I thought I got Easter, but I hadn't. Certainly haven't got Horses. I might have to rectify that. Maybe a trip on Discogs or something. Weather Report 8:30, double live album released in '79, and it's basically 8:30 was the time the band got on stage. Performance starts at 8:30. They played 2.5 hours with each member taking a solo. It's not a bad album, solo album. It's a 4-piece at this time. They all have as I said, all have a solo piece. So you've got Wayne Shorter, Joe Swinefeld, Jacob Pastorius, who co-produces the album. Very much a Trump from. I'm trying to think who the drummer is. Let's see. Pete Erskine is the drummer, and you've got Eric Swinefeld, who's not pictured, on percussion as well. It's all right. It's all right. It's a half decent live album. Yeah, it is what it is. I have been listening to a lot of sort of like jazz fusion over the last 12 months, so I was, to have this, and it was quite cheap as well. More than happy to pick that up. Then Widowmaker. Again, this will only cost me £3, I think. It's the debut album from the band Widowmaker. Came out in 1976. This is very much a bluesy sort of rock album of its ilk. Features Luther Grosvenor or Errol Bender as I think he reverted. He's Errol Bender. He's still using that moniker. He formed the band. You've got Steve Ellis on vocals there. Now Steve Ellis, he's quite a history. He was actually the vocalist on the Love Affair's Everlasting Love. And you've got Bob Daisley, and you've got Hugh Lloyd, who went on to join Rainbow and play with Ozzy. Then you've got Hugh Lloyd Langton, who is not featured on the back cover for some reason. He went on to play with Hawkwind. Drummer is Paul Nicholls. And actually, when I showed this on one of the Facebook communities, somebody said, "Oh, it's me mate." Somebody said, "Oh, you might play on this, play drums on this album." So, yeah, it's not a bad album. It's an album of what it is: blues-based rock, straight ahead rock. Nothing spectacular, but nothing offensive about it either. Talking of southern rock, here is ZZ Top's Rio Grande Mud. Originally came out 1972. This is a 1980 reissue. I was quite pleased just to find an early ZZ Top album. I think I've got to get the first album now, really, of that 70s period. I enjoyed this album, actually. I've not heard anything off this album before, so just got paid. Cocoa Blue, Apologies to Pearly, Whiskey and Mama, Dan Brownie. You can see that the beards Billy Gibbons hadn't quite thought about doing his beard yet. And I thought at that point that was me done for. But you know what? I thought, well, just check time, what time bus. And actually, somebody said, "We'll meet at a coffee. I'll give you a lift home." So I just had a little mooch around. And there's one area I'd looked, but I hadn't looked at all the bins. And I found a couple of albums which were going to cost me more than I had on me. You know, record fairs tend to be mainly cash based at the moment. That might change in light of all this. So I said, these two albums, I've only got this amount. And he said, yeah, you can have them for that. So the albums, Hot Space by Queen. Been looking for a copy of this at a reasonable price. I've seen, for some reason, when I see this out and about, some of the prices are a bit ridiculous. And obviously everyone knows with this album that Queen, on the back of the success of Under One Bites the Dust, I think led more by Freddie Mercury and John Deacon, who wrote Under One Bites the Dust. They wanted to go in a more funk black direction. And the reaction was mixed at best. I think Under Pressure had already come out with a single with Bowie. It was a #1 single in '81. Then the next thing that came out was Body Language, and it was sort of like there was a lot of okay. I remember listening to radio. I think it was Trevor Horn when they reviewed it. Says a lot of things out there that come together and it might just work, and for me it never quite worked. And I think that attitude, that sort of summed up the attitude of a lot of people to the rest of the album, because there's some corking tracks on there. I like Staying Power, but on here it doesn't sound that great. When they played it live, and if you get the live at Milton Keynes CD, and they play this live, it's absolute killer track live. You got the Brian May Stuff Dancer, Backchat, which was a single as well, which only scraped the top 40, but I loved that song. I love that song on there. Action This Day, Put Out the Fire, which is sort of like a standard Queen rocker. Life Is Real, song for Lennon. And, everyone at that time, just after John Lennon died, did a song for Lennon. And Queen, Freddie Mercury decided he'd do one. Calling All Girls, which is a Roger Taylor song. Los Problemas No More. Cool Cat. I actually quite like that. I do like that song. So I'm a bit more positive towards this album than probably negative. Obviously not the greatest Queen album, but I'm glad I've got it and did enjoy listening to it. The last album I'm going to show you is, I've been after a vinyl copy of this album for some time. When I saw it and saw the price, I thought, yeah. Because normally if I go trawling, if I wanted this album, it would cost me an arm and a leg, especially if I wanted the original cover. So I've managed to pick up a copy of Electric Ladyland by Jimi Hendrix. And you're thinking, wow, well, that ain't the cover, that ain't the Nudie Lady cover at the start, and it isn't the American cover. You're right, it isn't. That's 10 out of 10 for observation. This is a French reissue on the Barclay label. Young's exactly the same. Exactly the same. There you go. Hendrix and the band. And all the track listing there. Just get the one album out and show you the Barclay label. This is not an original. This is a reissue as well. Original sleeve. There's the Barclay label. The original sleeve, French sleeve, is different as well. Not none of the originals. But as I said, dare I say it, it was a grail. You have to see my previous videos about grails and my thoughts about it to get the connotation of that. But it's just a classic album. If I find a original, yeah, I'll go for it. But I'm not going to go out my way. I've got a vinyl copy. It's a beautiful cover. It may not be the cover you expect, but it's a beautiful piece of artwork there is. So, really pleased to find that. And that was my trip to Moseley Record Fair. Yeah, it is sad that obviously it's not going to happen next week. It will come back, no doubt, and I'll go again. But you know, these are strange times. You know, I said I developed a cough last Monday. It's gone. Obviously self-isolating now. Hopefully can go back out Tuesday. Working from home, I've done a week of that, a week and a half of that. I'm getting used to it. I'm slowly getting used to it. I think because when we had the lockdown restrictions, I think that was a case of okay, we've got to get on with it and just not whinge about it. You know, yes, the sun is out, but it's cold out there today. The clocks have gone forward, so it's summer, British summertime. But hey, you know, life goes on. Listen to music. I know Pete at the shop's been doing a tune of the day at midday on the Psychotron page. Did a virtual dig yesterday, and we also Harvey at Spinning the Black Circle. He's got a group called the Bastards of Eclectic Taste or something like that. I can never remember the name of it. But he did a live DJ set to the members yesterday. So we're all keeping our spirits up. So it's all good. So whatever you do, you know, you just got to take the advice. You know, it's just strange times we're living in. It's scary times, I suppose. You know, before to go out to the families and relatives of those who've lost people in this pandemic. But on the positive front, I suppose it gives us time to listen to music. I've been sorting out my singles, started putting them away, so it gives me opportunity to do those little things that I keep putting off. So there you go, VC. So whatever you get up to today, be safe, but make it enjoyable. If you're new to the channel and you like what you see, click on the subscribe button. I've actually hit 300 subscribers, which was quite amazing. I'm happy with that, more than happy with that. Big thank you to one and all who subscribe and watch my channel and take time off, time out to comment. I do have it's a small channel, but I do seem to have quite a loyal following, so I do appreciate it. I'm spending my time catching up watching videos as well. And it's probably what I'm going to do this afternoon, actually. Read a book and watch videos and listen to music. Who said men can't multitask? So, thumbs up, thumbs down. Love the interaction. Feel free to comment. I will get back to you. I am up to date with my comments now. So, VC, please take care of yourselves. Whatever you get up to. So, until next time, take care of yourselves, keep spinning, more importantly, keep smiling.